This is a discussion on Asperger syndrome and driving. As you can see, I've got an L plate here. These are the L plates that I still have for my car that I used to have. I had my own car for about 5 months. Then, unfortunately, in a moment of tiredness, I had a bit of a nasty accident, and it's now got written off. So I'm still waiting to see if they give me a refund. It came as a nasty shock to me when it happened. And I was faced with the dilemma of what to do next. Well, the thing is, if I continue learning to drive now, I'd be going against the advice given to me by so many people, my solicitor, my uncle, my friends. They're all telling me I should stop. I'll just go through a brief run through of the events that led up to this. So when I was a teenager, sometimes my mum thought maybe I could have driving lessons, but we just never got around to doing it. She was my dad was always. I think he would have always preferred me to be off the roads. The thing is, he's lost his first child, and when you've lost your first child, you tend to be more protective of the child that is born after that event. What happened was, throughout most of the 60s, abortion was illegal. It was an offence. Well, towards the end, the later period of a decade, they decided to legalise it. They legalised abortion and homosexuality around about the same time. Two things that got legalised, changed. The law changed as regards these two things, and well, the homosexuality part didn't affect me mum and dad, because neither of them were that way inclined. But the abortion thing did affect them, because when my mother was pregnant with her first child, she was diagnosed as having German measles when she was pregnant. Well, if you have German measles when you're pregnant, something could be wrong. Your child could be handicapped because of it. And because they just legalised abortion at this time, they were saying it was a good idea that she should have one. And my dad was very upset about it, because it was his child that was being killed. He felt his child was being killed, and her mother wanted to go through with it because she didn't want to have a handicapped child, and she thought it would be a good idea. And but it went ahead, and I think if you've lost your first child for some reason or other, you probably, when the next child is born after that, you're probably more protected towards them, because you don't want to go through the experience of losing them, really. Anyway, when I was in my early 20s, I was put on disability benefits, and I was diagnosed with some sort of a condition. They said at first it was a mild form of schizophrenia, but later on I was diagnosed with Asperger syndrome. Well, at this time, my parents would have worried too much about me if I was driving with this condition, and also it would have been too expensive really for me to have driving lessons or learn to drive a car anyway, because my dad finished work when he wasn't very old. He was only about, like I'm 52, he was like the same age as what I am now when he finished work and he went on a pension. Well, my 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 benefits that I got weren't really enough. Wouldn't have been enough for me to. They might have been, but I would have to have scrimped an awful lot for me to be able to afford to drive a car, and also my parents would have worried about it because there was something wrong with, not because there was something wrong with me, and when I was a teenager, I used to get called thick and dozy and gormless and all the sort of names that you get called when you're a teenager. But when I was on the youth training scheme, there was some girl who made this remark to me once that she thought I was acting as I was thick when I knew full well that I wasn't. Well, that's just how the teenage mind works. They don't understand sometimes that there really is something wrong with someone. It's not pretend. It's not a case of acting like you're thick. You're not acting like anything. You're just the way you are. That's teenagers don't always seem to realise. They haven't got the maturity to realise that always, have they? Anyway, as time went on, both my parents died. My dad died from lung cancer when he was about 33. Then, when he was 46, my mother died from complications from a chest infection, which was the results of a second stroke. And I was left on my own. I was left to my own devices. And I had all this money lying around, and I thought that my mother had passed on to me in a will, and I thought, why shouldn't I have something to spend it on? And I thought I'll get myself a car. So I sent off for a provisional licence. I was waiting for ages. What it was, I want to be perfectly honest with everybody. I don't want. And if you're disabled, you're supposed to tell them about it when you apply for your provisional licence, and you're supposed to fill in the questionnaire. Well, I filled in this questionnaire about my Asperger syndrome and everything, and I sent the whole thing off. And I was waiting for quite a while, and they sent me this letter. I was still living in my mother's old house at the time, and they sent me this letter saying, "We are not sure about your ability to control your vehicle." Well, they were right in saying that. They were right to be concerned about that. And I thought, no, they won't let me have one now. I thought, that's it, they won't let me have one. I didn't want to raise my hopes up too high. I thought, you know what I mean? I just thought to myself, no, they're not going to let me have a license. They said they were going to ask my doctor for a bit more information about me, like. And then one day I got this envelope through the post, and it had a provisional driver's license in it. And I thought, yes. And I thought, so I started having lessons, and she with this woman, this local driving instructor, and she just took me around this estate it's called the Lock Estate in Barnton. I may as well mention the name because I'm not going to say anything derogatory about anybody in this. So her name was Jenny Knight. So and she took me around this little this little estate in the village called Barnton, where I live, called Lock Estate. And I didn't drive on the first lesson, and she just went through a brief run through of the inside of the car and how it works and everything, and but on the second lesson, I actually drove just for a few yards, and I was thrilled to bits because it was because I was 46, and it was the first time I'd ever done it. And I put it on my Facebook page. I'm thrilled to bits that have caused a car to move along the road for the first time in my life, because it was the first time in my life. And in the weeks that followed, she started to get a bit nervous with me behind the steering wheel, because I wasn't braking when I should be doing, and she felt a bit uneasy with that. There was cars coming towards me in the opposite direction, and I wasn't braking, and she thought, oh dear. And she said, I'll give you a few more lessons, and then we'll have a think about whether this is right for you to be carrying on with. And she says, I'm not going to put money before my safety. I'm not going to put my life in danger for money. She says. So I had a few more lessons, and I started to improve a bit. I wasn't as quite oblivious as the other traffic on the roads, and she said she thought, yeah, you're doing quite well compared with what you were before. But she did tell me this. She said she thought it would take me years to learn to drive. She thought it would take me longer to learn to drive than what it would take to get a degree at university. That was her honest opinion, because she could see that I was a very slow learner. And I got a phone call off me after maybe about a year or so. I got a phone call off my young. She had me driving around the Lock Estate in Barnton for ages. Then a little while after that, she started to take me around this village called Weaverham. I got a phone call from my uncle one day, and he told me, because I was learning in a manual car at the time, he says, you should be learning in an automatic. You can't be expected to control a manual car. And so I had a word with her about it, and she says, there's another driving instructor called Nigel Warburton who teaches in automatics, and he teaches people with disabilities. So I stopped having lessons with her and started with him. And I'll tell you how I went on with that in part 2 of this discussion. I like to divide things up into bits. I don't do everything all in one go. It's if you look through all my other discussions and things, it's all part 1, part 2, and part 3. And this is just part 1 of this. Anyway, I'll be back on here soon.